Let's set up our level in some simple ways to kind of make it have a bit more of a custom touch and get ready for some of the other things that we're going to add. Really quick before we do, if you had the issue where your character wasn't animating because you chose to be in one of the level template lessons, what you can do is click on player, and we notice that actually the controller for the animator got disconnected. What we do is we head into the animations folder and make sure the player is selected so we see the side menu, and click and drag on this object. And you're going to drop it right into the controller. So I'm connecting my player back to the animation controller that's needed to make the animations work. Now when I press run, the player actually animates in this scene. So just a little tip, if that breaks, you can just reconnect it yourself with that little drag and drop. Now let's see what we're working with here. Right now we just have this kind of flat plane of a level with not much going on. We're going to add more content to it soon. But one thing that I want to set up is making this actual level space maybe a little bit smaller, because I have an idea in mind for a level that I want to make that's a bit different than the one I showed you at first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head up into my scale tool with my ground selected, and I'm going to make this quite a bit more narrow to make it a little bit more difficult to make it along. I don't have quite as much space to work with. And actually, I might even make it a little bit shorter. Maybe that's okay. And I'm going to go to my move tool or press W to select my move tool and drag it back a little bit. Great, so my player starts at the beginning of this kind of more narrow platform. You can make yours look different than mine if you want to, although you might find it a bit easier to actually set it up in a way that looks the same as mine for the tutorials. Now, one thing I'm noticing here is that my player's face seems to always be in the shadows. I can change this as well. On the directional light at the top, I can head over on the side here to the rotation of this light. And as I rotate it, what's happening is I'm actually changing the position of the sun in the sky. You can see right here that shows an example of where the sun is, and I should be able to see it. And if I change the rotation and the position, now the skybox is actually not where the sun is really, because the skybox is covering it. The sun is actually kind of back behind my player right now, up there somewhere, just being kind of hidden away. So actually, why don't we get it to the sun to be kind of where it looks like in the scene here. So I'm going to rotate on the y-axis to get it to face sideways, like my player actually is standing where the sun is coming from. That's pretty close. Let's rotate this back a little bit here, and maybe make it angled. Why don't we angle it down a little bit more to illuminate the platform a little bit better? And I think that's okay for now. So I have this nice shadow being cast by my skybox. So you actually can change the sun's position in the sky, if you didn't know that already, from that spot there. Cool, I think that looks a little bit nicer. So I got my platform positioned, and I got my player here, and maybe something else I could add. I'm not sure if I want to keep this, but I'm going to right click in my hierarchy and go 3D object and cube. I'm going to move the cube up. I'm going to drag it back close to my player. And I'm going to scale this as well by pressing the R key and make it a nice long, maybe a little wider, but really flat, kind of a, like almost like a wood panel or yeah, something like that. And drag it forward. And what I'm going to do now is press E and rotate this down like so. Give myself a little bit of a sloped platform. This could be an interesting thing to add into the game to maybe get over an obstacle. If I wanted to kind of head back over this way and walk up it. Let me see if I can get on. Walk up it and jump off the top. Cool, that could be something that I might want to do. So I can actually add my own object in like this. I could, if I also wanted to, take my ground and give it a bit of an angle upwards if I wanted. Let's see what that looks and feels like. Now, it might make it a bit harder to put in some of our obstacles later, but that's an option for you to do. I'm going to keep mine flat for now. And so another thing that we can actually do to start to give our game a little bit more character is add in some of our own custom colors. So I'm going to head back into my assets folder and head under my materials folder. And I see that I've already pre-made a bunch of different colors, but let me show you how you make your own. If you right click in this space and go create material, you can create your own empty material. I'm going to call this, well, I already have ground. I'm going to call this ground 2. A new option for the ground. Maybe I want to have it have a unique color. So ground 2, I'm going to head up over into my inspector when it's selected and choose this little white box to make it have a color wheel appear. And now I can choose any color that I want. Maybe I want to give this ground a little bit of a, I don't know, kind of a greenish yellowish hue for some reason. I'll choose that and exit out. And now if I click on my ground 2 and drag it over the ground, it's going to apply that texture to it. And this is a nice way of distinguishing different things in your game. You can actually do this to your player as well if you haven't done so. I actually have some colors here already, my player body and my player eyes. I just drag and drop them into that spot. And one of the beautiful things about using materials like this is, let's say this ground I want it to look like grass. This looks like kind of dead grass. Let me change it. And since I've applied this color to the ground, if I change the color, the ground will change too. See, as I click and drag along it. So now maybe I can think of applying a much healthier color, like that. Looks maybe a little darker. A healthier looking kind of mossy green. Nice. I think that looks a lot better. And this platform, let's give this a bit of a custom color. I'm going to create a new material and do something a little special with it. I'm going to call this metallic platform. I'm going to apply the color right away. It's nothing special yet, but because I've applied it, now when I change it here, the color changes on the platform itself. I'm going to give it kind of a darker grayish, maybe with a bit of red in it for this sense of iron. And now I can enable some metallicness by dragging across in the metallic setting, which gives it a bit more of a metallic sheen to it. I can also make it more or less smooth so that it actually has different light reflections on it. And there's a bunch of other settings you can play with to give it different kinds of colors and texture, but see that kind of beautiful glistening reflection? Maybe makes it look a bit more metallic if I crank it all the way up there. So just another way of giving this platform kind of a custom feel to it and make our game feel a little bit more customized. And maybe if I felt like it, I could copy and paste this ground and move the copy around. And I'm going to make this a lot smaller, put it to the side. Let's copy and paste this one, drag it over here, maybe shift it a little bit more to the side. And let's see, copy and paste another one. Let's move it up a little bit and over to the side. Copy and paste that up and over to the side a little bit. And so I'm just kind of playing around with some ideas. Maybe I want to have some platforms, some different options for a pathway for the player. They can choose the route they want to take. I might not stick with this idea, but it's something to kind of set up an initial game concept before I added more obstacles along the way. So you kind of set something up in a simple way for yourself, either mimic what I've done or set something up in your own way. And in the next video, we're going to add in our first obstacles.